Hey everyone, hope you're doing great. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we'll dive into what if Deku replaced Captain America as the symbol of hope. Smash that subscribe button, and be sure to peek at the description below. Let's begin. The dust hadn't settled yet. Izuku Midoriya stood atop what remained of the Jaka City ruins, his hero costume torn and stained with the evidence of the hardest battle of his life. Around him, pro-heroes coordinated rescue efforts, medical teams rushed between makeshift triage centers, and the low hum of recovery drones filled the air. The final war against All for One had ended 3 days ago, but the work, the real work of heroes, continued. Deku! Achiko's voice crackled through his earpiece. We've got civilians trapped in the eastern sector, Building 47. The structure's unstable. On my way, Izuku responded, already pushing off the ground with a controlled burst of One for All. He activated Float, one of the quirks that had become second nature to him now, and soared over the devastated cityscape. The wind whipped through his green hair as he navigated between crumbling skyscrapers and suspended debris. Below him, he could see the progress they'd made. Where there had been chaos and fear just days ago, there was now order and hope. Civilians worked alongside heroes, forming human chains to pass supplies. Children who'd been evacuated were drawing pictures for the rescue workers. And everywhere he looked, people were helping people. This was what All Might had envisioned. This was what it meant to be a symbol of peace. Izuku landed softly beside Achiko, who was coordinating with Shoto and Tenya near the partially collapsed building. The structure leaned at a dangerous angle, held up by what looked like a combination of Shoto's eyes and some hastily constructed support beams. 8 people inside, Shoto reported, his heterochromatic eyes analyzing the building's stability. But there's a problem. There's a villain in there too, one we missed in the initial sweep. A villain? Izuku's mind immediately went into analysis mode. Do we have identification? Tenya adjusted his glasses, his expression grim. No records in the database. He appeared during the chaos, apparently. The civilians are hiding from him on the 3rd floor, but he's unstable, ranting about realities and worlds. His quirk? Izuku asked. Unknown, Achiko said, worry creasing her features. But Deku, we need to be careful. The building won't last much longer, and if he's dangerous, then I need to get those people out fast, Izuku finished. He looked at his friends, his partners, really. They'd all grown so much, become such incredible heroes. Achiko, can you lighten the building's load? Shoto, keep it stable. Tenya, coordinate evacuation routes and have medical standing by. And you? Tenya asked, though he already knew the answer. Izuku's green eyes hardened with determination. I'm going to save everyone. He didn't wait for their protests. With danger sense active and flowing through his consciousness like a sixth sense, Izuku entered the building through a hole in the wall. The interior was a nightmare of twisted metal and cracked concrete. He could hear water dripping somewhere, the groan of stressed support beams, and there, the rapid breathing of frightened people. 3rd floor, he murmured, using Black Whip to swing himself upward through the destroyed stairwell. The dark energy tendrils extended from his arms naturally now, as much a part of him as his own limbs. He found the civilians huddled in what used to be an office space. 6 adults and 2 children, all pressed against the far wall, their eyes wide with terror. But they weren't looking at Izuku. They were looking at the man standing in the center of the room. He was middle-aged, thin, with wild eyes and hands that crackled with energy that seemed to fold in on itself. Purple and black and somehow wrong. Reality itself seemed to ripple around his fingers like heat waves. You don't understand. The man was shouting, though at whom, Izuku couldn't tell. I've seen it. All the worlds, all the possibilities. We're just reflections. Copies. None of this is real, sir, Izuku said carefully, his voice calm despite the danger sense was screaming about. My name is Deku. I'm a hero. I'm here to help you. The man's head snapped toward him, eyes focusing and unfocusing. A hero? Another one? You're all the same in every world. Acting like you matter, like you can save people, but you can't save everyone, not in any reality. Izuku took a slow step forward. He dealt with unstable villains before, people who'd been pushed to breaking by their own quirks or the weight of the world. "You're right," he said softly. "I can't save everyone. No one can. But I can save you. I can save them." He gestured to the civilians. "Let me help you." For a moment, something flickered in the man's eyes, hope, maybe, or recognition. His hands lowered slightly, the reality-warping energy dimming. Then the building shook. A support beam gave way with a sound like a gunshot. The floor tilted, and one of the children screamed. The man's control shattered, and his hands came up in panic. The energy erupted from him in a wave, and danger sense exploded in Izuku's mind with a warning so intense it was almost physical pain. "Everyone down!" Izuku shouted, but it was too late. The energy hit him like a tsunami, and reality itself seemed to tear. Izuku saw impossible things, streets that existed and didn't exist, buildings that were whole and destroyed simultaneously, versions of himself that were and weren't. He tried to activate One for All, tried to anchor himself, but there was nothing to push against. He heard Achiko screaming his name through the earpiece. Felt Shoto's eyes trying to contain whatever was happening. Saw the civilians beginning to fall as the floor gave way completely. No, in that moment, with reality unraveling around him, Izuku Midoriya did what he always did. He reached out. Black whip extended from him in every direction, wrapping around the civilians, anchoring them to stable parts of the building. He pulled them toward the hole he'd entered through, even as the void pulled at him. "Go!" he shouted. "Get out!" The civilians scrambled, grabbed by Tenya, who'd appeared in the opening with his incredible speed. The children were crying but safe. The adults were terrified but alive, and Izuku was falling into somewhere else. The last thing he heard was All Might's voice, distant and distorted. "Young Midoriya." Then there was nothing but light and the sensation of being pulled apart and put back together across an infinite distance. New York City, Earth 199999. Nick Fury was having a bad day. Granted, most of his days were bad by normal standards. When you ran an organization dedicated to protecting the world from threats both terrestrial and extraterrestrial, bad days were standard operating procedure. But today was shaping up to be particularly irritating. "Run that by me again," he said into his phone, his one good eye scanning the reports on his tablet. Agent Maria Hill's voice came through clearly despite the background noise of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s operations center. "Energy spike in Manhattan, sir. Similar signature to the Tesseract event, but different. Smaller scale, but the readings are all over the place." Fury pinched the bridge of his nose. It had been 6 months since the Chitauri invasion, 6 months of dealing with the fallout, the Senate hearings, the public's fluctuating opinion on enhanced individuals and organizations like S.H.I.E.L.D. The Avengers Initiative had worked, barely, but the team had scattered to the winds afterward. Stark was doing his own thing, Banner had vanished again, Thor had returned to Asgard, and Romanoff and Barton were on assignment in Eastern Europe, and Steve Rogers. Fury pushed that thought aside. That was a wound still too fresh, even for him. "Location?" he asked. "Transmitting coordinates now. It's a construction site in Midtown." The energy spike lasted approximately 47 seconds before dissipating. No ongoing readings, but there's a crater and what appears to be an individual at the center. "An individual?" "Yes, sir. Male, young, wearing what looks like a costume? We have visual from a traffic camera." "Sending it now." Fury's tablet pinged. He opened the image and frowned. The photo was grainy but clear enough. A young man, maybe late teens or early 20s, lying in the center of a circular impact crater. He was wearing what indeed looked like a costume, primarily green and black with white accents, heavily damaged. There appeared to be some kind of mask or helmet system, metal plating on the arms, and what might have been support equipment around the waist. Another enhanced individual. Just what they needed. "Status?" Fury demanded. "Unconscious but alive. NYPD has secured the perimeter, but they're waiting for us. Civilians are recording everything, of course. It'll be all over social media within minutes if it isn't already." Of course it would be. Because nothing could be simple anymore. "I'm en route," Fury said, already moving toward the door of his office. "Get a medical team ready, and I want a full containment setup. If this kid so much as twitches wrong, we need to be ready." "Already done, sir." ETA 15 minutes. Make it 10. Izuku woke to pain and confusion. Every muscle in his body ached, which wasn't unusual after a major fight, but this was different. This felt like he'd been stretched too thin and then compressed back together. His head was pounding, and there was a high-pitched ringing in his ears. Slowly, carefully, he opened his eyes. Gray sky above him. The smell of concrete and something acrid, ozone maybe? He turned his head slightly, and immediately regretted it as the world spun. He was lying in a crater, he realized. The ground beneath him was cracked in a circular pattern radiating outward. What happened? Memory came back in fragments. The building. The civilians. The villain with reality warping powers. The energy wave. Pulling everyone to safety. Falling through. Through what? Where was he? Izuku tried to sit up, and his body protested violently. He gritted his teeth and pushed through it, years of training with One for All having taught him how to function through pain. As he rose to a seated position, he took in his surroundings. He was definitely not in Jaka City anymore. The buildings around him were wrong, different architecture, different style. The cars parked along the street were models he didn't recognize, and the people gathering at the edge of the crater, held back by police officers, were dressed differently. Everything felt slightly off, like looking at the world through a lens that was almost but not quite in focus. The police officers themselves were approaching cautiously, their hands on their weapons. "Don't move!" one of them shouted. "Keep your hands where we can see them." Izuku raised his hands slowly, wincing at the motion. "I'm sorry," he called out, his voice hoarse. "I didn't mean to cause trouble. There was an accident, a villain with a reality quirk." The police officers exchanged glances. One of them spoke into his radio. Subject is conscious and speaking English. Appears disoriented. Requesting shield ETA. Shield? Izuku didn't recognize that term. Was it a hero agency? "Sir, are you enhanced?" Another officer called out. "Enhanced? Not do you have a quirk, but are you enhanced?" The terminology was wrong. Danger sense suddenly flared, and Izuku's head snapped to the right. 3 black SUVs were approaching fast, moving with military precision. They formed a perimeter around the crater, and armed personnel emerged, weapons raised but not aimed directly at him. These weren't police. They moved like soldiers, wore tactical gear with an insignia Izuku didn't recognize, an eagle with spread wings and what might have been a globe. A woman stepped forward, dark-skinned with her hair pulled back, wearing what looked like a commander's uniform. Behind her came a man with an eye patch, long coat, and an air of absolute authority. "Stand down," the man ordered, his voice carrying across the crater. The armed personnel lowered their weapons slightly but remained ready. The man approached the edge of the crater, studying Izuku with his single eye. "I'm Director Nick Fury, Strategic Homeland Intervention, Enforcement, and Logistics Division. You want to tell me where you came from and why you just appeared in the middle of my city?" Izuku's mind raced. The title, the organization name, none of it matched anything he knew from Japan or the international hero networks he'd studied. And the way Fury was looking at him, it wasn't how people looked at heroes. It was how they looked at potential threats. "My name is Izuku Midoriya," he said carefully, keeping his hands visible. "Hero name Deku. I'm from," this is going to sound impossible, "but I don't think I'm where I'm supposed to be." "That much is obvious," Fury said dryly. "The energy signature that accompanied your arrival lit up our sensors like a Christmas tree. So I'll ask again, where did you come from?" "Japan," Izuku said. "Jaka City. I was in the middle of rescue operations after a major villain attack when another villain with a reality warping quirk." He paused, seeing incomprehension in Fury's eye. You don't know what a quirk is." "Assume I don't," Fury said. "And explain it." Slowly. Izuku's heart was sinking. This was wrong. All of this was wrong. Everyone knew what quirks were. 80% of the population had them. It was the foundation of modern society, unless he wasn't in his world anymore. The reality warping villain. The energy that had torn through space. The impossible visions of overlapping realities. "Oh no," Izuku whispered. "Oh no is not an explanation I like to hear," Fury said. "Let's try this differently. Can you stand?" Izuku nodded slowly and rose to his feet, ignoring the protests of his abused muscles. The armed personnel tensed, but Fury held up a hand. Good. Now I'm going to need you to come with us. We have a lot of questions, and I don't think you have many answers yet. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. Your choice. Izuku looked around at the armed agents, the police perimeter, the civilians recording everything on their phones. He was alone in what might be a different world entirely, surrounded by people who saw him as a threat. He could probably fight his way out. One for All was still there. He could feel it humming in his core. But that would only make things worse. And more importantly, it wasn't what a hero would do. I'll cooperate, Izuku said, lowering his hands slowly. But please, I need to understand where I am. What year is it? The woman, Hill, he heard someone call her, raised an eyebrow. 2013. Why? 2013. The same as when he'd left, at least. That was something. And this is New York City? America? Manhattan, specifically, Fury confirmed. You're telling me you don't know where you are? I know where, Izuku said quietly. I just don't know when. Or if this is even my world. That got their attention. Fury's expression didn't change much, but Izuku could see the shift in his posture, the way his mind was already working through the implications. Alternate dimensions, Fury said flatly. Of course. Because aliens weren't enough. All right, kid. Let's take this somewhere more private. Hill, get him in the vehicle. Medical team on standby. And someone shut down these cameras before this turns into a media circus. Izuku allowed himself to be escorted toward one of the SUVs, noting how the agents positioned themselves, never directly in his path, always with clear lines of fire, maintaining distance. Professional, well-trained, and very clearly prepared to deal with enhanced threats. As he climbed into the vehicle, Izuku caught sight of his reflection in the tinted window. His costume was torn, his face was smudged with dirt, and what might have been blood, and his eyes looked lost. What had he gotten himself into? Shield detention facility. Location classified. The room was deliberately plain. Gray walls, a metal table, 2 chairs, and a large mirror that Izuku strongly suspected was one-way glass. He'd been here for approximately 43 minutes by his count, after a medical examination that had revealed his unusual physiology. Multiple genetic markers that the doctors couldn't explain, bone density and muscle composition that was off the charts, and a cardiovascular system that seemed designed for extreme output. They'd taken his costume, given him generic gray clothing, and left him alone. Izuku had used the time to think, to try to process what had happened. Every explanation he came up with seemed impossible, but the evidence was undeniable. He was in a different world. A world without quirks. A world without heroes, or at least, not the kind he knew. The door opened, and Director Fury entered, followed by Agent Hill and a third person, a woman with red hair and striking green eyes, moving with the grace of a trained fighter. Midoriya, Fury said, taking a seat across from him. Hill stood by the door while the red-haired woman leaned against the wall, her gaze analytical. Let's start from the beginning, and I mean the very beginning. Izuku took a breath. How much do you know about the multiverse theory? Assume I know the basics, Fury said. Multiple realities, parallel dimensions, all that science fiction stuff that apparently isn't fiction anymore. In my world, Izuku began, about 200 years ago, people started being born with superpowers. We call them quirks. Today, roughly 80% of the population has one. They can be anything from minor abilities to incredible powers. He watched their reactions carefully. Hill's expression remained neutral, but he saw the redhead's eyes narrow slightly. And you have one of these quirks, Fury stated. Several, actually, Izuku said, deciding honesty was the best approach. My primary ability is called One for All. It's a quirk that can be passed down from person to person, and it stockpiles power with each generation. I'm the 9th holder. Stockpiles power, the redhead said, speaking for the first time. Her voice was controlled, professional. What kind of power? Physical enhancement, primarily. Strength, speed, durability. But as the quirk has evolved, I've also inherited abilities from previous holders. I can sense danger, manipulate energy into tendrils, float, and a few other things. Demonstrate, Fury ordered. Izuku hesitated. I don't want to damage. The room is reinforced. Show us. Slowly Izuku activated Black Whip. The dark energy emerged from his right hand, tendrils extending in controlled arcs before he pulled them back. Then he activated Float, lifting himself about 6 inches off the chair before settling back down. The 3 SHIELD agents watched impassively, but Izuku could see they were impressed and concerned. How strong? Hill asked. At full power? Izuku considered. I've destroyed buildings. Altered weather patterns with the air pressure from my attacks. I've fought villains who could level cities. And you're supposed to be a hero in your world, Fury said. It wasn't quite a question. Yes. I'm a pro-hero. Or, I was training to be one. The situation is complicated. Izuku looked down at his hands. We just finished a war. Against the most powerful villain in our world. I was helping with rescue operations when a villain with reality-warping powers lost control. His quirk hit me and He gestured vaguely. I ended up here. Can you get back? The redhead asked. I don't know, Izuku admitted. I don't even know how I got here, not really. The villain's quirk was unstable, uncontrolled. It could have been pure chance that I ended up in this world instead of scattered across 1,000 others. Fury leaned back in his chair, studying Izuku with his single eye. You're telling me that you're a superpowered individual from an alternate dimension where superpowers are normal, and you just happened to fall into our world by accident. I know how it sounds, Izuku said quietly. It sounds insane, Hill said. But 6 months ago, aliens invaded through a portal in the sky, so insane seems to be our new normal. Aliens? Izuku filed that information away. This world had clearly had its own share of impossible events. Here's my problem, Fury said, leaning forward. I have an unknown enhanced individual with significant destructive capability, claiming to be from another dimension, and no way to verify his story. You could be a threat. You could be a weapon. You could be a lot of things. I'm a hero, Izuku said firmly, meeting Fury's gaze. In my world, I've dedicated my entire life to saving people. I know you have no reason to trust me, but I'm not a threat. I just want to understand what happened and find a way home. Everyone says they're not a threat, the redhead said. Right up until they are. Romanov's got a point, Fury said. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to stay in our custody while we figure out what to do with you. You're going to answer all our questions. And you're going to prove that you're what you say you are. How? Izuku asked. A slight smile crossed Fury's face, though it didn't reach his eye. We're going to test you. Your abilities, your personality, your story. We're going to take you apart piece by piece until we know exactly what you are. And if I pass your tests, then maybe, we'll talk about helping you get home. But don't hold your breath, kid. We've got our own problems. Izuku nodded slowly. He didn't have many options, and these people, while suspicious, didn't seem cruel. They were protecting their world, just like he would do in their position. I'll cooperate, he said. Whatever you need to do, I understand. But can I ask you something? Fury gestured for him to continue. Earlier, when I mentioned I was a hero, you didn't seem familiar with the concept. Not the way people in my world would be. And the way you operate, this organization, it's military, not heroic. Why? The 3 agents exchanged glances. Finally, Fury spoke. We don't really do the hero thing here. Not the way you're probably thinking. We have enhanced individuals. We have people with abilities. But the idea of heroes, of symbols that inspire people. He paused, something almost like pain crossing his features. We had someone like that once. Could have been the greatest hero this world ever saw. But we lost him. Lost him? Izuku asked softly. He went into the ice 70 years ago, Hill said quietly. Saved the world. Never came back out. Izuku felt his chest tighten. A hero who sacrificed everything. A symbol that was lost. He thought of All Might, of the burden of being a symbol of peace, of what it meant when that symbol faded. What was his name? He asked. Captain America, Fury said. Steve Rogers. He was supposed to be the first of a new kind of soldier. Instead, he became the only one. And when he was gone, that idea of hope went with him. The room fell silent. Izuku understood, perhaps more than they knew. The weight of a symbol, the void it left behind. In my world, Izuku said slowly, the symbol of peace was a hero named All Might. He was the greatest hero of our generation, someone who could make people feel safe just by existing. But his power was fading, and he had to pass on his legacy. He chose me. He looked at each of them. I know what it's like to live in the shadow of a symbol. And I know what it's like when that symbol is gone. Fury studied him for a long moment. That's a heavy burden for someone your age. I'm 19, Izuku said. But I've been training for this since I was 15. In my world, we start young. 15, Romanov said, and Izuku heard something in her voice. Recognition, perhaps, or sympathy. That is young. It had to be, Izuku said simply. The world needed heroes. Still needs them. And now you're stuck in a different world, Fury said. One that might need heroes just as much, even if it doesn't know it. There was something in the way he said it, something considering. Izuku felt a chill run down his spine. This man was thinking several steps ahead, seeing possibilities and opportunities that others might miss. I just want to go home, Izuku said firmly. My friends, my family, they need to know I'm alive. There are people who depend on me. I'm sure there are, Fury agreed. But right now you're here. And here, you're an unknown. So you'll forgive me if I don't take you at your word just yet. The door opened, and a technician entered, whispering something to Hill. She frowned and looked at Fury. Sir, we have a situation. What kind of situation? The footage from the construction site is everywhere. Social media, news networks, conspiracy sites. And there's more, someone enhanced the images. They're getting clear shots of his costume, his face. People are asking questions. Fury muttered something under his breath that Izuku suspected was a curse. Get the PR team on damage control. Official story is unidentified enhanced individual, currently in custody, no threat to public safety. About that, Hill said. There's already chatter comparing him to Captain America. The room went very still. Explain, Fury said, his voice dangerously quiet. Hill pulled out a tablet and showed it to Fury. The way he appeared, the costume design, his age. Social media is already making comparisons. Some people think it's a sign. Others think it's disrespectful. But the narrative is building. Izuku leaned forward, trying to see the screen. He caught a glimpse of his own image, enhanced and clarified from the traffic camera footage. Comments scrolled below. New hero? Is this real? We don't need another Captain America. Maybe this is what we need. This is exactly what we don't need, Fury said, standing abruptly. Romanov, stay with him. Hill, with me. We need to contain this before it becomes a circus. They left, leaving Izuku alone with the red-haired agent called Romanov. She moved to sit across from him, her posture relaxed but her eyes alert. So, she said. Izuku Midoriya. Deku. The next symbol of peace from another world. That's quite a story. It's the truth, Izuku said. Truth is often strange, Romanov agreed. Doesn't make it easier to believe? Tell me, in your world, do heroes ever fail? The question caught him off guard. Of course. All the time. Being a hero doesn't mean being perfect. But you said you had a symbol of peace. Someone who made people feel safe just by existing. That sounds like someone who didn't fail. All Might. Izuku considered his words carefully. All Might was human. He failed in ways that weren't always visible. But he got back up. He kept smiling. That was his real power, not the strength, but the ability to keep going and make others believe they could too. And you? Can you do that? I don't know, Izuku admitted. I'm trying. Every day, I'm trying to live up to what he taught me. But there's a difference between trying and succeeding. Romanov's expression softened slightly. That's more honest than I expected. Most people with power like yours, they have an ego. They believe their own hype. Power without humility is just violence, Izuku said, remembering Gran Torino's words. I was born without any power at all. I know what it's like to be helpless. I never want anyone else to feel that way. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Romanov spoke again, her voice quieter. Steve Rogers was born weak too. Sickly. Could barely walk upstairs without getting winded. But he had heart. When they gave him the serum that made him Captain America, the scientist who created it said that the serum amplifies everything. Good becomes great, bad becomes worse. Steve became great because he was already good. What happened to him? Izuku asked. You said he went into the ice? Was he? We don't know, Romanov said. His plane went down in the Arctic 70 years ago. We've searched. Found nothing. Maybe he's frozen somewhere. Maybe he's dead. Either way, he's gone. She looked at him directly. This world has been waiting for someone like him ever since. Looking for the next hero, the next symbol. So when you appeared out of nowhere, looking young and idealistic in a costume, people see what they want to see, Izuku finished. Exactly. And that's dangerous. For you and for them. I don't want to be someone's false hope, Izuku said. I'm not from this world. I don't belong here. I need to find a way home. And if you can't? The question hung in the air. Izuku didn't have an answer. Before he could respond, the door burst open. Fury strode in, his expression grim. We have a problem, he said. There's been a breakout at a facility we use for enhanced criminals. Someone orchestrated it, took advantage of the chaos from your arrival. We're down half our rapid response team due to other operations, and the situation is deteriorating fast. How many escaped? Romanov asked, already on her feet. 12. Most are low-level, but 3 are serious threats. They're heading towards civilian areas. Fury looked at Izuku. So here's your chance to prove what you are. You want me to believe you're a hero? Show me. Izuku stood. What do you need me to do? There's a shield transport facility in Queens. One of the escapees is heading there. Enhanced strength and durability, violent tendencies, hostages on site. We can get you there in 15 minutes. I can be there in 5, Izuku said. If you tell me where it is. Fury raised an eyebrow. You're fast? Very. Fine. But you're not going alone. Romanov, gear up. You're with him. He will run tactical support from here. Fury stepped closer to Izuku. Let me be very clear. This is a test. You step out of line, you endanger civilians, you prove to be a threat, and we will put you down. Understood? Understood, Izuku said. But I won't let you down. Saving people is what I do. We'll see, Fury said. Romanov, get him something to wear. Can't have him running around in that gray prison outfit. 5 minutes later, Izuku stood in a shield armory, looking at the tactical gear they'd provided. It wasn't his hero costume, that was too damaged and still being analyzed, but it would work. Black tactical pants, a dark green shirt, and a lightweight vest that Romanov assured him was bullet-resistant. It's not much, she said, strapping on her own weapons. But it'll keep you from being too conspicuous. I'm used to my costume, Izuku admitted, testing the range of motion. But this works. Thank you? Don't thank me yet. If you're lying about being a hero, this is where we find out. She handed him an earpiece. Comms. Stay in contact. Follow my lead when it comes to engagement protocols. I understand chain of command, Izuku assured her. In my world, I work with teams all the time. Good. Let's go save some people. They loaded into a helicopter, and as it lifted off into the darkening sky, Izuku looked out over New York City. It looked similar to the cities in his world, but different in subtle ways. Same but not the same, a different world. Different people. But the same basic truth, there were people in danger, and he could help. ETA 3 minutes, the pilot called out. Izuku activated One for All, feeling it flow through his body at a low percentage. Just enough to be ready. Danger sense was active, scanning for threats. Float was prepared in case he needed aerial mobility. You really think you can make a difference? Romanov asked quietly, checking her weapons. In a world that's not yours. Izuku looked at her and smiled, the smile All Might had taught him, the one that said everything would be okay. A hero saves people, he said simply. It doesn't matter what world I'm in. Someone needs help, and I can give it. That's all that matters. Romanov studied him for a moment, then nodded. All right, Deku. Let's see what you can do. The helicopter descended toward the shield facility. Izuku could see smoke rising from one of the buildings, signs of a fight already in progress. His heart rate increased, adrenaline mixing with the familiar feeling of one for all. This was what he was meant to do. This was what All Might had prepared him for. Even in a different world, some things stayed the same. Heroes saved people, and Izuku Midoriya was going to prove, one way or another, that he was a hero. The helicopter touched down, and Izuku jumped out, ready for whatever came next. The shield facility in Queens was in chaos. Izuku hit the ground running, literally. The moment the helicopter touched down, he launched himself forward with a controlled burst of one for all, covering the distance to the main building in seconds. Danger Sense painted a three-dimensional map of threats in his mind. Hostiles on the second floor, civilians clustered in what looked like a break room, and one major threat signature that blazed like a bonfire. Contact in 30 seconds, he said into the comms. Multiple hostages, second floor, northwest corner. The enhanced is, the wall exploded outward. A figure emerged from the debris, easily 7 feet tall and built like a tank. His skin had a grayish tint, and his muscles rippled with unnatural power. He was holding a shield agent by the collar, dangling the man like a rag doll. Stay back! The enhanced roared, his voice distorted and bestial. Stay back or I start breaking necks. Izuku didn't hesitate. Black whip shot from his arms, wrapping around the intact section of wall, and he used it to swing himself up and around in an arc. The enhanced eyes widened as Izuku came at him from an unexpected angle, but he was too slow to react. Izuku's foot connected with the man's jaw, a 30% Delaware smash kick that sent him flying backward and forced him to drop the shield agent. Izuku caught the agent with Black Whip before he could fall, gently lowering him to the ground. Get to safety, Izuku ordered, already moving toward the enhanced, who was shaking off the hit and climbing to his feet. Now, the agent scrambled away, and Izuku faced the enhanced individual. Up close, he could see the man's eyes were wild, unfocused. Something was wrong beyond just aggression. Sir, Izuku called out, his voice calm despite the tension. I don't want to hurt you. Stand down and we can. The enhanced charged with a roar. Izuku sidestepped, using float to adjust his position in midair, and delivered a controlled strike to the man's kidney. The enhanced grunted but barely slowed, spinning with surprising speed and swinging a massive fist. Danger Sense screamed a warning. Izuku ducked under the blow and analyzed the situation in the split second he had. Enhanced strength, definitely. Enhanced durability. But the movements were uncontrolled, driven by rage or pain rather than tactics. This wasn't a trained fighter. This was someone out of control. Deku status? Romanov's voice came through the comms. Engaged with primary threat. He's not thinking clearly. Something's wrong with him. Intel says he's been experimenting with enhancement drugs. Could be affecting his mental state. That explained it. Izuku's mind flashed a trigger from his own world, the quirk-enhancing drug that drove users into violent frenzies. This seemed similar. I need to end this without seriously hurting him, Izuku said, dodging another wild swing. He's not in control. Focus on neutralization, Romanov ordered. We're evacuating the hostages. The enhanced grabbed a piece of debris and hurled it at Izuku. He used Black Whip to snatch it out of the air and redirect it safely to the side. Then he moved in close, faster than the enhanced could track, and delivered a precise strike to the solar plexus. Enough force to wind him, but not enough to cause serious damage. The enhanced doubled over, gasping. Izuku didn't give him time to recover. He used Black Whip to bind the man's arms and legs, wrapping the energy tendrils around him in a cocoon that prevented movement, while avoiding pressure points that could cause injury. I'm sorry, Izuku said quietly as the enhanced struggled against the bindings. But I can't let you hurt anyone. Please calm down. We'll get you help. The man's struggles grew weaker, exhaustion and oxygen deprivation from his exertion taking their toll. Within 30 seconds he slumped, unconscious but breathing normally. Izuku maintained the Black Whip restraints and checked the man's pulse. Steady. He'd be fine. Primary threat neutralized, Izuku reported. He needs medical attention, possible drug overdose or addiction, and psychological evaluation. Copy that, Romanov's voice responded. Medical team en route. Good work. SHIELD agents swarmed in, taking custody of the unconscious enhanced individual. Izuku released his black whip and watched as they secured the man with specialized restraints. One of the agents, the one Izuku had saved from being held hostage, approached hesitantly. "Thank you," the agent said, extending his hand. "That was incredible. I've never seen anyone move like that." Izuku shook his hand, feeling slightly embarrassed. "I'm just glad everyone's safe." "Is anyone injured?" "Minor injuries only, thanks to you. When you showed up." The agent shook his head. "I thought we were done for." He was completely out of control. Romanov appeared from the building, her tactical gear spotless despite having been part of the evacuation. She surveyed the scene with professional efficiency. "All hostages secure. Building clear? Local authorities are handling the perimeter." She looked at Izuku. "Not bad for your first mission in a new world." "It's what anyone would have done," Izuku said. "No," Romanov corrected. "It's what a hero would have done. Most people would have hit him harder, faster, ended it with maximum force. You held back. Controlled your power. Tried to help him even while stopping him. He wasn't a villain," Izuku said. "He was someone who needed help and didn't know how to ask for it." "There's a difference." Romanov studied him with those sharp green eyes. "Fury is going to want to debrief you. But between you and me? You passed the test." Shield helicarrier, 18 hours later. Izuku stood in what Romanov had called the combat assessment room, which was basically a massive reinforced chamber designed to withstand enhanced individuals going all out. The walls were some kind of alloy that, according to the technicians, could withstand a significant amount of punishment. He hoped he wouldn't have to test that claim. Across from him stood a man with a bow. He was dressed in tactical gear similar to Romanov's, with a quiver of specialized arrows on his back. His eyes were sharp, calculating, and he held himself with the confidence of someone who'd been in countless fights. "Clint Barton," the man introduced himself. "Codename Hawkeye. I'm here to assess your combat capabilities in a controlled environment." "Izuku Midoriya," Izuku responded. "Codename Deku." Is this going to be a fight?" "Sparring match," Barton corrected. "Non-lethal. We need to understand your capabilities, limitations, and fighting style." Romanov gave her assessment, but Fury wants a second opinion. He notched an arrow, tipped with what looked like a rubber training head. "Don't hold back on my account. I can handle it." Izuku activated One for All at about 20%, feeling the familiar energy flow through his body. "I'll try not to hurt you." Barton grinned. "Kid, I've been thrown through walls by the Hulk. You're going to have to do better then." Izuku moved. One moment he was standing still, the next he was across the room, his speed enhanced by One for All. He didn't attack, just demonstrated his mobility, using float to adjust his trajectory mid-movement and landing in a different position. Barton's arrow tracked him smoothly, the archer's reflexes impressive. "Okay. Fast. Let's see how you handle this." He fired 3 arrows in rapid succession, each from a different angle. Danger sense alerted Izuku to their trajectories, and he dodged the first 2 easily. The third he caught with black whip, redirecting it into the wall. Enhanced speed, some kind of danger prediction, and those energy whips, Barton noted, already drawing another arrow. "What else?" Izuku activated float fully, lifting himself off the ground and moving in 3 dimensions. Barton adapted immediately, firing arrows that released nets and bolas. Izuku used black whip to deflect them, then created a more complex pattern, multiple tendrils extending from both arms, creating a defensive web while he maneuvered. They went back and forth for several minutes. Barton was incredibly skilled, using trick arrows that Izuku hadn't anticipated, sonic disruptors, electromagnetic pulses, even one that released a foam that tried to bind his legs. But danger sense gave Izuku just enough warning to counter or evade, and his mobility made him a difficult target. Finally, Barton called a halt, lowering his bow. "All right, I've seen enough. You're good, kid. Really good. How long have you been training?" "Since I was 15, Izuku said, landing and deactivating float. "But I've been studying heroes and combat tactics since I was 4. "It shows. Your movement isn't just fast, it's efficient. You don't waste energy. And those danger prediction reflexes." Barton shook his head. "That's a serious advantage." How does it work? I'm not entirely sure, Izuku admitted. It's one of the quirks, powers, from previous users of One for All. It creates a sort of mental alert when danger is nearby. The stronger the danger, the stronger the warning. Must be useful. It is. But it can be overwhelming if there are too many threats at once. They were interrupted by the door opening. Romanoff entered, followed by Fury and someone Izuku didn't recognize, a man in an expensive suit, dark hair with hints of gray, and an unmistakable air of confidence bordering on arrogance. Ah, the interdimensional mystery hero, the man said, looking Izuku up and down. Got to say, the footage doesn't do you justice. You're what, 12? 19, Izuku corrected, feeling slightly defensive. Midoriya, this is Tony Stark, Fury introduced. Genius, billionaire, former weapons manufacturer, current pain in my ass. You say the sweetest things, Nick Stark said. He extended a hand to Izuku. Also known as Iron Man, though I assume that doesn't mean much to you since you're from Dimension X or whatever. Izuku shook his hand. I've heard of you since arriving. You were part of the team that fought the Chitauri invasion. Part of the team? I'm pretty sure I'm the one who carried a nuclear missile through a portal and saved the world. But who's counting? Stark pulled out a tablet and started swiping through screens. Fury asked me to take a look at you. Specifically to figure out what the hell you are. I'm human, Izuku said. Just enhanced. See, that's where it gets interesting. Stark pulled up what looked like medical scans. Izuku's medical scans from when he'd first arrived. Your genetic structure is human. Baseline DNA matches Homo sapiens, but there are these weird markers throughout your system. Coding sequences that shouldn't exist. And your energy output. He whistled. Kid, when you use your powers, you're generating energy that according to physics, you shouldn't be able to produce. One for all stockpiles power, Izuku explained. 9 generations worth. Right, your hereditary super battery quirk. Except it's not hereditary in the genetic sense. You said it's transferred, right? From person to person? Yes. The previous user chooses a successor and passes on the quirk. Stark's eyes lit up with the kind of enthusiasm Izuku recognized from his own hero analysis obsession. That's fascinating. So it's not coded into your DNA specifically, but it modifies your DNA when transferred? Or does it exist as some kind of separate energy system that integrates with your biology? And the multiple powers, are those genetic memories or actual biological modifications from previous users? I'm not sure, Izuku admitted. The mechanics of quirks aren't fully understood even in my world. We know they're genetic, connected to a special factor that appeared in humans about 200 years ago, but the exact mechanism. A whole world of superpowers and nobody thought to figure out how they work? Stark looked incredulous. There's research, Izuku said defensively. But quirks are so varied, so unique to each individual, that creating a unified theory has been difficult. And most people are more focused on using their quirks than understanding them. Typical, Stark muttered, making notes on his tablet. Okay, so here's what I want to do. I want to run some tests, non-invasive. I'm not going to dissect you or anything creepy. Blood work, energy readings, full biometric analysis while you use your powers. Maybe we can figure out not just what you are, but how to replicate it. Replicate it? Izuku felt a chill. You want to copy One for All? Not for me, Stark said. I've got my own thing going with the suits. But imagine if we could understand the mechanism, create something similar. We could change everything. No, Izuku said firmly. One for All isn't something that should be replicated. It's a legacy, passed down through specific choice. And in the wrong hands, he thought of All for One, the villain who'd stolen and accumulated quirks for over a century. Power like that corrupts. Kid's got a point, Barton said from where he'd been observing. We've seen what happens when people try to create super soldiers. It doesn't usually end well. Stark looked like he wanted to argue, but Fury cut in. Stark, you're here to analyze, not to play mad scientist. We need to understand Midoriya's capabilities, not reverse engineer him. Fine, Stark grumbled. But I'm still running the tests. And I reserve the right to be fascinated by impossible biology. Despite himself, Izuku found he liked Tony Stark. The man was abrasive and arrogant, but his enthusiasm for understanding how things worked reminded Izuku of his own analytical nature. How many notebooks had he filled with hero analysis? How many hours had he spent breaking down quirks and fighting styles? "I'll cooperate with your tests," Izuku said. "If it helps you understand what happened and maybe find a way to send me home, I'm willing to help." "About that," Fury said. "We need to talk about your situation." Conference room. Now, the conference room had large windows overlooking the sky, because apparently, they were on a flying aircraft carrier, which Izuku was still processing, and a table that could seat a dozen people. Currently it held Fury, Romanoff, Barton, Stark, and Agent Hill. "Sit," Fury ordered, and Izuku took a seat at the table. "Here's where we are. You've been here for about 36 hours. In that time you've proven you can fight, that you have some kind of moral code, and that you're not an immediate threat. But we still don't know if we can trust you." "I understand," Izuku said. "Do you?" Fury leaned forward. "Because here's the problem. Your story is insane. Alternate dimensions, genetic superpowers, passed down abilities. It sounds like a comic book. But we've analyzed you, and Stark's right. You're producing energy that shouldn't exist. You have abilities that defy explanation. So either you're telling the truth about being from another world, or you're something else entirely that we haven't figured out yet. What would convince you?" Izuku asked. "Time," Fury said. "Consistent behavior. Proof that you are what you say you are. We're in the intelligence business, Midoriya. Trust is earned, not given. While you're earning that trust," Hill added, "you need to stay under our supervision. Which means staying on the helicarrier or in designated SHIELD facilities." "So I'm a prisoner," Izuku said quietly. "You're a guest with restrictions," Fury corrected. "For everyone's safety, including yours. The footage from Queens is all over the internet. People are asking questions, and some of those people have agendas that don't include your well-being." Stark pulled up his tablet again and projected an image onto the wall. It was a news broadcast, showing footage of Izuku fighting the enhanced individual at the SHIELD facility. The quality was surprisingly good. "Mystery Hero saves SHIELD agents," the headline read. The footage showed Izuku moving at enhanced speed, using Black Whip, and carefully subduing the threat while protecting bystanders. "Social media is going crazy," Stark said, swiping through various posts. "Half the internet thinks you're a new superhero. Quarter thinks you're an alien. The rest think you're a government experiment. Oh, and there's a surprisingly active community that thinks you're Captain America's secret son from the future." "That's ridiculous," Izuku said. "Welcome to the internet," Stark replied. "Where facts are optional and conspiracy theories are currency." Romanoff spoke up. "The point is, you're visible now. People know you exist. And in our world, that makes you a target. There are organizations that would love to get their hands on someone with your abilities. Hydra remnants, AIM, the Ten Rings, all would kill to acquire an asset like you. Not to mention less hostile parties who'd want to study you," Barton added. SHIELD isn't the only agency interested in enhanced individuals. Izuku processed this information. It was similar to his own world in some ways. There were always villains and organizations that wanted to exploit power. But there was something different here, something darker in how these people talked about heroes and powers. "In my world," Izuku said slowly, "heroes are public figures. We're licensed, regulated, and known. People trust heroes because we're part of the system, part of society. But here, you don't have that, do you?" The silence that followed was telling. Finally, Fury spoke. "No. We don't." "Why not?" "Because 6 months ago," Hill said, "aliens invaded New York through a portal in the sky. The Avengers stopped them, barely. But the collateral damage was massive, hundreds dead, billions in property damage, and the entire world learned that we're not alone in the universe. That there are threats out there we can barely comprehend." "And the Avengers?" Romanoff continued. "We're not heroes in the way you're thinking. We're assets. Weapons. Thor is an alien god. Banner is a rage monster who can level city blocks. Stark built weapons that killed thousands before he had his change of heart. Barton and I are assassins trained by spy agencies. We saved the world, but we're not inspiring." "We're necessary," Barton said. "But we're not role models." Izuku felt his heart sink. He thought of All Might's smile, of how just seeing the symbol of peace could make people feel safe. He thought of his classmates at UA, of how they trained not just to fight but to rescue, to inspire, to give people hope. What about Captain America? He asked. You said he was different. The mood in the room shifted. Fury's expression hardened. Romanoff looked away. Even Stark, who seemed to have a quip for everything, went quiet. Steve Rogers, Fury said slowly, was supposed to change everything. He was a failed experiment that succeeded, a scrawny kid from Brooklyn who became the perfect soldier. But he wasn't just a soldier, he was a symbol. During World War II, he inspired millions. Gave people hope when everything seemed hopeless. What happened to him? Izuku asked, though he already knew part of the answer. He went into the ice, Hill said. 1945. Stopped a plane full of weapons that would have destroyed the East Coast. The plane went down in the Arctic, and he went with it. We've searched for 70 years. Found nothing. Some people think he's still out there, Barton said. Frozen, preserved, waiting to be found. Others think he's long dead. Either way, he's been gone for 7 decades. And in that time, Fury continued, we've had enhanced individuals. We've had people with powers. But we haven't had heroes. Not real ones. Not symbols that inspire and unite people. We've had the Avengers for less than a year, and already people are divided on whether we're saviors or threats. Stark projected another image, news coverage from the Battle of New York. Izuku saw destruction, chaos, and yes, heroes fighting to save people. But he also saw fear in civilians' faces, saw property damage and devastation. The poll numbers are fascinating, Stark said with bitter humor. 63% of Americans think the Avengers are necessary. 48% think we're dangerous. 32% think we should be regulated or controlled. And only 27% would call us heroes. Because heroes inspire trust, Romanoff said. They make people feel safe. We make people feel conflicted. Izuku stood and walked to the window, looking out over the clouds. He thought about his world, about the public's relationship with heroes. It wasn't perfect. There were criticisms, concerns about hero society's flaws, villains who emerged because of those flaws. But fundamentally, people trusted heroes. They believed in them. Here, that trust didn't exist. Or it had, once, in a man who'd been gone for 70 years. You need a symbol of peace, Izuku said quietly. We need something, Fury agreed. The world is more dangerous now than it's ever been. We've made contact with alien civilizations, discovered magic is real, confirmed that gods exist, and humanity's response has been fear and division. We need unity. We need hope. But that's not why you brought me here, Izuku said, turning to face them. You brought me here to assess if I'm a threat. Everything else is secondary. You're right, Fury said. My primary concern is security. But that doesn't mean I can't recognize an opportunity when I see one. You showed up out of nowhere with abilities we can't explain, claiming to be a hero from another world. You could be a threat. Or you could be exactly what we need. You want me to be your symbol of peace, Izuku said, understanding dawning. You want me to be your Captain America. I want to know if you could be, Fury corrected. There's a difference. Steve Rogers wasn't chosen to be a symbol. He earned it through his actions, his character, his unwavering dedication to doing what's right. If you're really a hero, that'll show in time. And if I just want to go home? Izuku asked. Then we'll help you if we can, Fury said. But until we figure out how, if we can figure out how, you're here. The question is what you do with that time. Izuku looked at each of them. Fury, calculating and strategic. Hill, professional and cautious. Romanoff and Barton, warriors who'd seen too much darkness. And Stark, genius and futurist, seeing possibilities in everything. They weren't his friends. They weren't his allies. Not yet. But they were trying to protect their world, just like he tried to protect his. I need time to think, Izuku said. Fair enough, Fury said, standing. Romanoff, show him to his quarters. Stark, I want those test results by tomorrow. Hill, coordinate with the PR team. We need a strategy for handling the media attention. Barton, get some rest. You look like hell. Love you too, boss, Barton said dryly. As the meeting broke up, Stark approached Izuku. Hey kid. I know this is overwhelming. Different world, people you don't know, everyone treating you like a science experiment, or a potential weapon. But for what it's worth, I believe you. You do? Izuku was surprised. I've seen a lot of impossible things in the last few years. Alternate dimensions barely cracked the top 5. And your power? Stark's eyes gleamed with that analytical fascination again. It's biological but transferable, genetic but not hereditary, individual but connected to legacy. That's not something someone could fake or engineer. That's real. That's natural to wherever you came from. Thank you, Izuku said. That means a lot. Don't thank me yet. I'm still going to run every test I can think of. But I'll try to make it painless. Stark headed for the door, then paused. One more thing. Fury's right that we need something. Someone to inspire people, to make them believe in heroes again. But don't let anyone pressure you into being something you're not. Steve Rogers was Steve Rogers because that's who he really was. If you're going to be a symbol, be yourself. The world will either accept it or it won't, but at least you'll be genuine. He left, leaving Izuku alone with Romanov. Come on, she said. I'll show you where you'll be staying. It's not much, but it's secure and comfortable. They walked through the helicarrier's corridors in silence for a while. Finally, Romanov spoke. What Stark said, he's right. Don't let Fury's ambitions shape you into something you're not. He's a good man, mostly, but he's a strategist first. He sees assets and opportunities. And you? Izuku asked. What do you see? Romanov considered. I see a kid who's scared and trying not to show it. Who's far from home and putting on a brave face. Who has more power than most people could dream of but still thinks about helping others first. She looked at him directly. I see someone who might actually be what they claim to be, a real hero. I'm not a hero yet, Izuku said. Not a pro-hero anyway. I was still in training when I got pulled here. You were in training and you already have that much power? That much skill? My world is dangerous, Izuku explained. We start training young because we have to. Villains with quirks can be incredibly powerful. We need heroes who can match them. Tell me about your world, Romanov said. What's it like? They reached a door, which Romanov opened to reveal a small but well-appointed room. Bed, desk, bathroom, a window showing the sky outside. Izuku entered and sat on the bed. It's complicated, he began. Quirks appeared about 200 years ago. At first, it was chaos. People with random powers, society breaking down, unable to cope with the changes. But gradually, we adapted. Created laws, regulations, systems to handle people with powers. The hero system emerged as a way to maintain order and protect people. Hero system? Romanov leaned against the doorframe, listening. Licensed professionals who use their quirks to fight villains and rescue people. There are different types: rescue heroes, combat heroes, underground heroes. There are rankings, agencies, support industries. It's a whole ecosystem. Sounds organized. Almost corporate. It is, in some ways. And that's part of the problem. Izuku thought of Stain, of the criticisms of heroes society. Some people become heroes for fame, or money rather than to help people. The system can be corrupt. There are flaws. Every system has flaws, Romanov said. The question is whether it does more good than harm. I think it does. The symbol of peace, All Might. He showed that heroes could be more than just law enforcement. He inspired people, made them feel safe, gave them something to believe in. Crime rates dropped dramatically during his prime just because people knew he was out there. One man made that much difference? One symbol, Izuku corrected. All Might wasn't just a hero. He was hope incarnate. When he smiled, you knew everything would be okay. And people needed that. Needed past tense? Romanov caught the implication. Izuku nodded slowly. All Might's power was fading. He fought one last battle against the greatest villain our world has ever known, and he won. But it cost him everything. He had to retire. And the world had to learn to live without its symbol of peace. That's why you understand what Fury was talking about, Romanov said. You've lived through losing a symbol. And I've seen what happens when that symbol is gone. People are scared. Villains are emboldened. Society destabilizes. It's getting better. There are other great heroes, and we're working to rebuild trust. But it's hard. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Romanov spoke quietly. I was trained from childhood to be a weapon. In the Red Room, they took girls and broke them down, rebuilt them as assassins. I've done things I'm not proud of. Killed people who probably didn't deserve it. Followed orders without question. She looked at her hands. I'm not a hero, Midoriya. I'm a spy and an assassin who's trying to do better. To balance the ledger. Why are you telling me this? Izuku asked. Because you should know who you're dealing with. Fury, Barton, me, we're all from the shadows. We operate in gray areas. We do what's necessary, not always what's right. If you're going to be involved with S.H.I.E.L.D., you need to understand that. And the Avengers? Thor is a warrior from another realm. His morality is alien, literally. He's honorable, but honor and heroism aren't the same thing. Banner is a good man haunted by a monster he can't control. Stark is genius who used to profit from war and now can't figure out if he's trying to atone or prove he's smarter than everyone. We're all damaged in our own ways. Everyone is damaged, Izuku said softly. That doesn't mean you can't be heroes. Romanov smiled slightly. See, that's the difference. You look at us and see potential. We look at ourselves and see flaws. One of my teachers once told me that recognizing your flaws is the first step to overcoming them. You can't be a true hero if you think you're perfect, because then you'll never grow. Smart teacher, the best. Izuku thought of Aizawa, of All Might, of Gran Torino. I've had a lot of good teachers. They taught me that being a hero isn't about being the strongest or the most popular. It's about saving people with a smile. About making people feel safe. About never giving up, no matter how hopeless things seem. Can I ask you something? Romanov said. What's the worst thing you've ever faced? The thing that made you doubt you could be a hero? Izuku thought back over the years. So many battles, so many close calls. But one moment stood out. There was a little girl, he said quietly. Her name was Eri. She'd been abused by a villain for years, experimented on, hurt in ways that no child should ever experience. I found her, scared and alone. And I had to let her go back to that villain. Why? Because I wasn't ready. I didn't have backup, didn't have a plan, didn't have authorization to engage. I was still just a student, still learning. And I let her go because I followed the rules. His hands clenched. I can still see her face. The fear in her eyes. The hope dying when I didn't save her right then. But you did save her eventually, didn't you? Yes. We raided the villain's compound, I fought with everything I had, and we rescued her. She's safe now, healing, learning to smile again. But I think about that first moment all the time, the moment I failed her. You didn't fail, Romanov said. You made a tactical decision. Waited for backup, gathered intelligence, did it right. I know. Logically, I know that. But emotionally... Izuku looked up at her. A hero saves people. I didn't save her that day. And it haunts me. Good, Romanov said, surprising him. Not that it haunts you, but that you feel it. That you care. That's what separates heroes from weapons. Weapons don't feel. They don't doubt. They just act. She pushed off from the doorframe. Get some rest. Tomorrow Stark is going to poke and prod you in the name of science, and you'll need your energy. She started to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, I think you are a hero. A real one. And maybe that's what this world needs. After she left, Izuku lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. His mind was racing, processing everything he'd learned. This world had heroes, the Avengers, but they weren't symbols of hope. They were weapons, assets, necessary evils. They'd had a symbol once. Captain America. Steve Rogers. A man who embodied heroism so completely that his absence left a void 70 years later. And now Fury was wondering if Izuku could fill that void. Could he? Should he? He thought of All Might, of the burden of being a symbol. The constant pressure, the inability to show weakness, the knowledge that millions of people depended on your mere existence for their sense of safety. It had nearly destroyed All Might, had forced him to hide his true condition, to push himself past his limits again and again, but it had also saved countless lives, inspired a generation, created a world where people could smile without fear. What would you do, All Might? Izuku whispered to the empty room. He knew the answer. All Might would help. No matter the cost, no matter the burden, All Might would see people in need and step up. That's what it meant to be a hero. Izuku activated his phone, a shield-issued device with limited access, and pulled up the news articles about his arrival. The footage from the shield facility in Queens played on loop. He watched himself move, fight, save people. The comments were a mix of hope and cynicism. Finally, a real hero, another freak with powers. Just what we need. He reminds me of Cap. The way he moves, like he actually cares. Probably a government plant. Shield propaganda. Did you see how he saved that agent? And how carefully he took down the enhanced? That's someone who values life. We don't need symbols. We need accountability. Every opinion, every perspective, every hope and fear projected onto him. And he'd only been in this world for a day and a half. A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. Izuku opened it to find Tony Stark standing there, holding 2 cups of coffee. Figured you might be overthinking everything, Stark said, offering him a cup. It's what I do when faced with impossible situations. Well, that and build things, but you don't strike me as the engineering type. Thank you, Izuku said, accepting the coffee. How did you? Jarvis monitors the helicarrier. My AI assistant. He noted elevated stress indicators in this room. Plus, I was 19 once. I know what it's like to have the weight of the world dropped on your shoulders. Stark entered without being invited, looking around the sparse room. They give you the budget accommodations, I see. Typical shield. No sense of hospitality. It's fine, Izuku said. I've stayed in worse during training exercises. Right, your world's hero bootcamp or whatever. Stark sat on the desk chair. So, I've been thinking about your situation. Dimensional displacement isn't something we have a lot of experience with, but we do have some data from the Tesseract events. The energy signature that brought you here had similarities to what we've seen with Einstein-Rosen bridges. Wormholes, basically. Can you send me back? Izuku asked, hope surging. Maybe. Eventually. Possibly. Stark sipped his coffee. The problem is we don't know the exact frequency or signature of your home dimension. It's like trying to find a specific phone number when you only know 1 digit. We could open portals, but they might lead anywhere. Or nowhere. Or somewhere that turns you inside out on a molecular level. Izuku's hope deflated. So I'm stuck here, for now. But I'm working on it. Me, Banner when we can track him down, and potentially some SHIELD scientists who are less likely to dissect you than study you. It'll take time, but we'll figure it out. Stark looked at him seriously. Question is, what do you do in the meantime? I don't know, Izuku admitted. Fury wants me to be some kind of symbol. You all need a hero to unite people. But I'm not from this world. I don't know your society, your politics, your history. How can I represent something I don't understand? Valid point. Counterpoint. Steve Rogers was from the 1940s. If he'd come back, he'd be just as displaced, just as out of time and context. But he would have been what people needed because of who he was, not because of what he knew about modern society. That's different. This was his world. Just a different time. Is it, though? Stark leaned forward. Look, I never met Steve Rogers. He was gone before I was born. But I knew my father, Howard Stark, and he never shut up about Cap. According to him, Steve wasn't special because of the super soldier serum. He was special because of what was inside him. He could do the right thing all day long. That was Howard's phrase. He could do the right thing all day long. Doing the right thing isn't always simple, Izuku said. No, it's not. It's messy and complicated, and sometimes there is no right answer. But there's a difference between people who try to do the right thing and people who don't care. You. Stark pointed at him. You care. I can see it. The way you talked about that little girl you couldn't save immediately. The way you carefully took down that enhanced individual yesterday instead of just smashing him. You care about people. Isn't that the minimum requirement for being a hero? You'd think so. But caring isn't the same as being able to weaponize that caring into effective action. Lots of people care. Few can actually make a difference. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Izuku asked, "What was the Chitauri invasion like?" Stark's expression shifted, something darker entering his eyes. Terrifying. We were outmatched, outnumbered, and completely unprepared. If it wasn't for a combination of luck, stubborn refusal to die, and a one-way trip through a wormhole with a nuke, we would have lost. And I spent weeks afterward having panic attacks, unable to sleep, convinced the next invasion was coming. But you saved everyone. We saved New York. Didn't save the hundreds who died before we could stop the invasion. Didn't save the thousands who were injured or traumatized. Didn't prevent the political fallout and fear that came after. Stark's voice was bitter. We won the battle, but we didn't win hearts and minds. Because people don't trust you, Izuku said, understanding. They see you as dangerous, even though you saved them. Exactly. And that's the problem. We're reactive, not proactive. We show up when things go wrong, we fight, we cause collateral damage, and then we disappear. We don't inspire. We don't unite. We're just weapons that occasionally point in the right direction. That's not fair to yourselves, Izuku said. You risk your lives to protect people. That matters, does it? If people don't feel safer, if they don't have hope, if they don't trust us, does it matter that we saved them? Stark stood and walked to the window. This is what Fury understands. It's not enough to have power. You need to have purpose. You need to mean something. And you think I could mean something? I think you already do, kid. You've been here less than 2 days, and there are already people online calling you Captain Hope. Fury's probably having an aneurysm about the nickname, but it stuck. Because people saw you save someone with compassion instead of just force. They saw a hero, not a weapon. Izuku joined him at the window. Below, through the clouds, he could see land, forests, roads, signs of civilization. Somewhere down there, people were living their lives, hoping for safety, for security, for someone to believe in. I don't know if I can be what they need, Izuku said quietly. None of us do, Stark replied. But we show up anyway. That's what makes us heroes, showing up even when we're terrified, even when we don't have all the answers, even when we might fail. Plus ultra, Izuku murmured. What? It's the motto of my school. UA High School, the top hero academy in Japan. Plus ultra, go beyond. Beyond your limits, beyond expectations, beyond what you think is possible. Stark smiled. I like that. Very aspirational. His phone beeped, and he checked it. And that's my cue. Lab results are in, and I need to review them before tomorrow's tests. Get some sleep, kid. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. After Stark left, Izuku stood at the window for a long time, watching the world pass beneath the flying carrier. He thought about his friends, Achiko, Ida, Todoroki, Bakugo, all of Class 1A. Were they looking for him? Did they think he was dead? His mother must be beside herself with worry. He thought about All Might, about the responsibility the former symbol of peace had passed to him. One for All wasn't just power, it was legacy, duty, the accumulated hopes of 9 generations. And he thought about this world, this strange place where heroes existed but didn't inspire, where people were saved but didn't feel safe, where a symbol had been missing for 70 years. Could he fill that void? Should he even try? A hero saves people. That was the fundamental truth. It didn't matter what world he was in, what politics existed, what complications arose. There were people who needed help, and he had the power to give it. The rest, the symbolism, the inspiration, the weight of expectations, that would come or it wouldn't. But the core of heroism remained the same: save people with a smile. Izuku looked at his reflection in the window and smiled, not All Might's confident grin, but his own determined expression. The smile of someone who was scared but would do it anyway. The smile of someone who cared. Tomorrow, he would face whatever test Shield had planned. He would prove he was a hero, not through words but through actions. And maybe, just maybe, he would figure out how to be Izuku Midoriya in a world that had never heard of Deku. But tonight, he would rest. Gather his strength. Prepare for what came next. Because that's what heroes did. They endured. The alarm woke Izuku at 0547 hours. He'd been dreaming of home, of All Might's smile, of training exercises with Todoroki and Bakugo, of his mother's cooking. The shrill sound of the shield-issued alarm dragged him back to reality. A sparse room on a flying aircraft carrier in a world that wasn't his own. Izuku sat up, running a hand through his tangled green hair. He'd slept in fits and starts, his mind too active to fully rest. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that reality-warping villain's quirk tearing through space, felt the sensation of being pulled between dimensions. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. Midoriya, Agent Hill's voice came through. "You're needed in the briefing room." 10 minutes. "I'll be there," Izuku called back, already moving. Years of early morning training at UA had conditioned him to wake quickly and function immediately. He showered fast, changed into the shield-provided tactical gear, still felt wrong without his hero costume, and made his way through the helicarrier's corridors. Agents passed him with curious glances but said nothing. Word had apparently spread about the interdimensional hero in their midst. The briefing room held familiar faces: Director Fury, Agent Hill, Natasha Romanoff, and Clint Barton. A holographic display showed what looked like a maximum security prison built on an island in the middle of the ocean. "Sit," Fury ordered, and Izuku took a seat. "At 0423 hours this morning, we detected unusual activity at the raft, our primary detention facility for enhanced individuals. Someone's been tampering with the security systems." The hologram zoomed in, showing interior schematics. The raft holds approximately 87 enhanced prisoners, ranging from minor threats to individuals capable of significant destruction. "If someone's planning a breakout, we'd have dozens of super-powered criminals loose," Izuku finished. "How many guards on site?" 43 security personnel, plus automated systems. Hill pulled up personnel files. "But if the security systems are compromised, they're sitting ducks. Who would have the capability to hack the raft?" Izuku asked. "Short list," Barton said. AIM, Hydra remnants, or someone on the inside. We're still investigating. In the meantime, Fury continued, we need boots on the ground. Romanoff and Barton will lead the response team. Midoriya, you're going with them. Another test? Izuku asked. Another opportunity to prove what you are, Fury corrected. The raft holds dangerous individuals. If there's a breakout attempt, people will die, guards, prisoners, anyone caught in the crossfire. We need to prevent that. Rules of engagement? Romanoff asked, her tone professional. Prevent the breakout by any means necessary. Lethal force is authorized if required. Fury's eye fixed on Izuku. I know that's not how you operate in your world. You have a problem with that? Izuku thought of the Hero Public Safety Commission, of the strict regulations around quirk usage and the prohibition on heroes taking lives except in the most extreme circumstances. But he also thought of vigilantes like Stain, of the gray areas that existed even in his world. I'll do what I have to, Izuku said. But I won't kill unless there's absolutely no other choice. Fair enough, Fury said. Romanoff, Barton, keep him alive and contained. If he's a threat, neutralize him. If he's an asset, use him. Clear? Crystal, Romanoff said. 20 minutes later, Izuku was strapped into a Quinjet, Shield's advanced aircraft, alongside Romanoff and Barton. 6 additional agents formed the response team, all heavily armed and grimly professional. ETA 32 minutes, the pilot announced. Barton was checking his arrows, each one specialized for different situations. Romanoff was reviewing the prisoner files on a tablet. Izuku activated one for all at a low percentage, letting the energy flow through him in preparation. Nervous? Romanoff asked without looking up. Focused, Izuku replied. In my world I've done rescue operations before. But never in a prison, and never with prisoners I know nothing about. Quick briefing then, Romanoff said, pulling up files. The raft's top-tier threats, Carl Creel, the absorbing man, can take on the properties of any material he touches. Extremely dangerous, limited intelligence. A image showed a bald man with a menacing expression. Anton Vanko, aka Whiplash. Genius engineer with weaponized electrified whips. Personal vendetta against Tony Stark, killed multiple people. Another file. This man looked older, scarred, with cold eyes. Samuel Stearns, the leader. enhanced intelligence, tactical genius, megalomaniacal tendencies. He's the one I'm most worried about. If anyone inside could coordinate a breakout, it's him. And if they're all working together? Izuku asked. Then we have a serious problem, Barton said. Which is why we're going in hard and fast. Secure the control room, lock down the facility, prevent any exits. Standard containment protocol. What about the guards? Izuku asked. Extraction if possible, Romanoff said. But the mission priority is containment. We can't let enhanced criminals reach the mainland. Izuku frowned. In his world, rescue always came first. Capturing villains was secondary to saving lives. But he understood the calculation. If powerful criminals escaped, they could endanger thousands. I'll follow your lead, Izuku said. But if I see someone who needs help, guard or prisoner, I'm helping them. As long as it doesn't compromise the mission, Romanoff agreed. The Quinjet descended through clouds, and the raft came into view. It was an imposing structure, a massive facility built on a platform in the middle of the ocean, surrounded by automated turrets and sensor arrays. Except half the turrets were offline, and Izuku could see smoke rising from one of the towers. We're too late, Barton muttered. It's already started. All teams, this is command. Hill's voice came through their comms. We're reading multiple containment breaches. Estimate 15 to 20 prisoners have escaped their cells. Guard casualties unknown. Damn it, Romanoff cursed. Pilot, get us down now. Combat deployment. The Quinjet touched down on the raft's landing pad, and the team poured out. Immediately, danger sense flared in Izuku's mind, threats from multiple directions, varying intensities. Contact! One of the agents shouted. A figure emerged from the smoke, massive, easily 8 feet tall, his skin having taken on the appearance of concrete. The absorbing man. Fresh meat. Creo roared, charging at them. Dispersal pattern Delta. Romanoff ordered, and the agents scattered with practiced precision. Izuku moved on instinct, pushing off with one for all and using float to position himself between Creel and the agents. Black whip extended from his arms, wrapping around a support pillar, and he used it to redirect his momentum into a devastating kick. Manchester Smash. The 45% power kick caught Creel in the chest, sending him flying backward into a concrete barrier. The impact cratered the concrete, but Creel absorbed the material's properties, his body becoming even harder. That's supposed to hurt? Creel laughed, climbing to his feet. I can take anything you dish out, kid. Izuku's mind raced, analyzing. The absorbing man took on properties of materials he touched. Concrete made him durable but slow. He needed to change the variables. Barton! Izuku called. The water. Can you get him into the water? Understanding flashed in Barton's eyes. He fired an arrow that exploded into an expanding net, tangling Creel's legs. Izuku followed up with Black Whip, grabbing the net and pulling with enhanced strength. Creel stumbled toward the edge of the platform. What are you? He fell into the ocean with a massive splash. His body immediately took on the properties of water, losing solidity, unable to maintain form. Nice thinking, Barton said. He'll be stuck like that for a while. Not a permanent solution, Izuku said. Eventually he'll touch something solid and reform. We need to. An explosion rocked the facility. Danger Sense screamed a warning, and Izuku grabbed the two nearest agents with Black Whip, pulling them away from a section of platform that erupted in flames. Inside, Romanoff ordered. We need to reach the control room. They entered the facility, and chaos greeted them. Emergency lighting cast everything in red. Alarm klaxons blared, and somewhere deeper in the structure, Izuku could hear fighting, guards trying to contain the breakout. His danger sense painted a complex picture of threats throughout the facility. Izuku closed his eyes, focusing, mapping the sensations. There, he said, pointing. 3 levels down, eastern section. That's where the biggest concentration of danger is. The high-security wing, Romanoff confirmed, checking her tablet. Where we keep the worst of the worst. If they're trying to free specific prisoners. Another explosion, closer this time. The walls shook, and structural damage warnings flashed on nearby displays. The facility's integrity is compromised, Hill's voice crackled through comms. You need to evacuate all personnel and resecure the prisoners now. Copy that, Romanov said. She looked at Izuku and Barton. Split up. Barton, take teams 1 and 2, evacuate the guard stations on levels 1 and 2. Midoriya, you're with me. We're going to high security. Agent Romanov, one of the SHIELD agents said hesitantly. Is it wise to send an untested asset to the most dangerous area? He's not an asset, Romanov said flatly. He's a hero. And right now we need one. Move out. Izuku followed Romanov deeper into the facility, using Black Whip to swing through damaged sections where the stairs had collapsed. His danger sense kept him alert to threats, automated defenses that had gone haywire, structural weaknesses ready to collapse, and the presence of enhanced individuals nearby. They reached the high-security wing to find carnage. 3 guards lay unconscious, alive, but badly injured. Cell doors hung open, and the specialized containment fields were offline. How many escaped from this wing? Izuku asked, kneeling beside one of the guards to check his pulse. 5 cells were opened, Romanov said, examining the security logs on a wall panel. Stearns, Vanko, and 3 others. But only 4 heat signatures showing as having left the area. Someone's still here, Izuku said. Danger sense was pinging steadily, indicating a threat but not immediate danger. They moved cautiously through the wing. Izuku extended his senses, combining danger sense with his analytical training. The threat was below them? No, above. On the ceiling. Get down! Izuku shouted, tackling Romanov to the side as a figure dropped from above, electrified whips crackling with energy. Anton Vanko stood before them, older than his file photo, his face twisted with rage and something else, pain, maybe, or madness. His whips hummed with electrical current, scarring the floor where they struck. Shield dogs, Vanko spat in heavily accented English. You lock us away, treat us like animals. No more, Vanko, stand down, Romanov said, her weapons drawn. You're only making this worse for yourself. Worse? I rot in this hole for years, and you say worse? Vanko laughed bitterly. I have nothing to lose, Spider. But you have everything to lose. He lashed out with both whips simultaneously. Romanov rolled left, firing her weapons. The bullets sparked off Vanko's armored suit but didn't penetrate. Izuku went right, using float to lift himself out of the whip's range. Vanko! Izuku called. I don't know what you did to end up here, but escaping will only. You know nothing. Vanko interrupted. You're just a boy playing hero. The real world, it crushes boys like you. The whips came for Izuku, but danger sense gave him microseconds of warning. He used Black Whip to grab a chunk of concrete debris and interpose it. The electrified whips wrapped around the debris instead of him. In that moment of Vanko's whips being entangled, Izuku moved. A burst of one for all at 50% propelled him forward faster than Vanko could react. Izuku's fist connected with the control unit on Vanko's chest, not hard enough to seriously injure the man, but enough to shatter the delicate electronics. The whips died instantly. Vanko stumbled back, shock on his face. How, you're faster than. Romanov was there in an instant, her taser connecting with Vanko's neck. The enhanced criminal went down hard. Secure him, Romanov ordered, producing specialized restraints. As she worked, she glanced at Izuku. Good analysis. You targeted his power source, not him. He's a person, not a target, Izuku said. Even if he's done wrong, he deserves to be treated humanely. Romanov's expression was unreadable. You might be the first person I've met who thinks that way about criminals. Before Izuku could respond, the entire facility shook. This wasn't an explosion, this was structural failure. Alarms blared with new urgency, and automated voices announced, critical structural damage detected, evacuation recommended, Hill, status. Romanov demanded into comms. The breakout was a diversion, Hill's voice came back, stressed. They planted explosives throughout the facility's support columns. The raft is coming apart. You need to evacuate now. What about the prisoners? Izuku asked. The ones still in their cells? Static answered him. Then Hill's voice, reluctant. The automated lockdown protocols sealed all remaining cells. They can't be opened remotely, and manual override requires. Requires someone to be in the control room, which is in the section that's currently on fire, Romanov finished. Damn it. How many prisoners are still locked in? 63, Hill said. But Romanov, you can't, the structure won't hold. If you try to evacuate them all, we'll die, Romanov said flatly. She looked at Izuku. And there's no guarantee we could save them all even if we tried. The smart play is to evacuate with the guards and let the automated systems handle it. The automated systems are failing, Izuku said. That's why this is happening. I know. They stared at each other. Izuku could see the calculation in Romanov's eyes, the cold, professional assessment of risks and probabilities. This was what she'd been trained for, making the hard calls, sacrificing the few for the many. But Izuku hadn't been trained like that. I'm going to save them, Izuku said simply. You can't save them all, Romanov said. Even with your powers, there isn't time. And these aren't civilians, Midoriya. They're criminals. Dangerous people who hurt others. They're still people, Izuku said. And a hero saves everyone. He saw something flicker in Romanov's expression, surprise, maybe, or recognition. The control room is 3 levels up, northwest section, she said. If you can override the lockdown, I can, Izuku said. But I'll need you to coordinate the evacuation. Get the guards out, contact whatever support S.H.I.E.L.D. can provide. And if I don't make it out, you'll make it, Romanov said firmly. Because I've seen enough people die, and I'm not adding a kid hero to that list. Go. I'll handle this end. Izuku didn't wait for further discussion. He activated One for All at 75%, feeling the energy surge through his body, and launched himself upward. Black Whip extended in multiple directions, allowing him to swing through the damaged facility at incredible speed. Danger Sense guided him around structural weaknesses and through sections that were seconds from collapse. His analytical mind mapped the fastest route, calculated the time he had, estimated the risks. Not enough time. Even moving at this speed, even pushing himself, there wasn't enough time to reach the control room, override the locks, and evacuate 63 prisoners before the facility collapsed, which meant he needed to do something different. Izuku changed direction, heading not for the control room but for the cell blocks themselves. If he couldn't override the locks remotely, he'd have to do it manually, one cell at a time. He reached the first cell block to find prisoners pounding on their doors, some screaming in fear, others demanding release. The water was rising, the ocean flooding into breaches in the hull. Stand back from your doors, Izuku shouted. Some complied. Others didn't. Izuku didn't have time to argue. He focused One for All into his right arm, 45%, and delivered a precise strike to the locking mechanism of the first cell. The door flew open. A woman stumbled out, her eyes wide with terror. You're freeing us? She asked, incredulous. I'm evacuating you, Izuku corrected. Head to the upper levels. S.H.I.E.L.D. agents will direct you from there. Go, she ran. Izuku moved to the next cell, and the next, and the next. Each lock required a precise strike, enough force to break the mechanism but not enough to cave in the door or injure anyone inside. His arms began to ache. The recoil of using One for All repeatedly was taking its toll. Barton, do you copy? Izuku said into comms. I'm here, Barton's voice responded. Where are you? Cell Block C, Level 3. I'm manually opening cells. I need help coordinating evacuation. You're what? Midoriya, those are criminals. They're people who are going to drown if we don't help them, Izuku said, breaking open another cell. Please, Barton. I can't do this alone. A pause. Then, you're insane. But all right. I've got teams heading to the upper levels to establish evacuation routes. Get the prisoners moving upward. Thank you, Izuku breathed. He continued working, moving from cell to cell. Some prisoners fled immediately. Others hesitated, suspicious of this young hero who was saving them. A few tried to attack him. Danger Sense warned him in time to dodge or restrain them with Black Whip. Why are you doing this? One prisoner demanded, a man with metal-coated arms who'd tried to punch Izuku. We're criminals. We tried to kill you. Because everyone deserves a chance to live, Izuku said, binding him with Black Whip and dragging him toward the evacuation route. What you do with that chance is up to you. The facility groaned around them. Metal screamed as structural supports failed. Water poured in faster now, already ankle-deep in some sections. Izuku reached cell block D to find the ceiling partially collapsed. Several cells were blocked by debris, and he could hear voices calling for help from inside. No time for careful precision now. Izuku activated One for All at 100%. The sensation was familiar and terrible. Power beyond what his body could safely handle, tearing through his muscles and bones. But he'd trained for this, had learned to use 100% in brief, controlled bursts. Full cowl, 100%. The green energy of One for All enveloped him completely. Izuku grabbed the debris blocking the cells and lifted. Tons of concrete and steel moved as if it weighed nothing. His muscles screamed in protest, but he held it long enough for the prisoners inside to scramble free. Then he released it, letting the debris fall safely to the side, and immediately powered down to 45%. His arms shook from the exertion. Move! He ordered the freed prisoners. Upward, now! They fled, and Izuku continued his desperate race against time. Cell after cell, block after block. His hero costume. No, he was wearing the shield tactical gear, but his mind kept seeing his hero costume, kept feeling like this was a rescue operation at UA, kept falling into the patterns All Might had trained into him. Save everyone. No matter what. A hero saves everyone with a smile. So Izuku smiled, even though his body ached, even though the facility was collapsing around him, even though he knew he might not make it out. He reached the final cell block to find the worst situation yet. The entire section was flooding, water already chest deep. The cells here held some of the most dangerous prisoners, kept in isolation. And the structural damage was catastrophic. The ceiling was actively collapsing. Danger sense, Izuku muttered, closing his eyes and focusing. The quirk painted a picture in his mind: 5 prisoners still trapped, 3 guards unconscious in the guard station, and a support column that would fail in approximately 90 seconds. When that column failed, this entire section would collapse into the ocean. 90 seconds to save 8 people. Izuku activated Float and Black Whip simultaneously, extending multiple tendrils in different directions. He used them like extra arms, smashing open cells while he swam through the rising water toward the guard station. The guards were unconscious but alive, trapped behind a door jammed by debris. Izuku used One for All at 60% to tear the door off its hinges and grabbed all 3 guards with Black Whip, securing them to his back. The prisoners were evacuating from their cells, but they were slow, the water impeded movement, and some were panicking. Izuku could feel danger sense counting down in his mind: 60 seconds until collapse. Grab onto me! Izuku shouted. Or grab onto each other. I'm getting you out, most complied. One man, his file would later identify him as a robber with minor enhanced strength, tried to swim away on his own. I'm not trusting some kid hero, the ceiling groaned. 40 seconds. Izuku used Black Whip to grab the resistant prisoner anyway, along with the others. In total, he had 8 people secured with his energy tendrils, plus the 3 guards on his back. 11 people whose lives depended on him. He activated Float at maximum output and pushed upward. The strain was immense. Float was designed to lift his body weight, not 11 other people. But One for All enhanced everything, including his other quirks. Izuku pushed 80% of One for All into Float, forcing it beyond its normal limits. They rose through the water. 20 seconds. A support beam fell, missing them by inches. Izuku used Black Whip to deflect other falling debris while maintaining Float. His head was pounding, his vision starting to blur from the exertion. 10 seconds. They broke the surface of the water, entering a section that was still above the flood line. Izuku didn't stop. He continued upward, through damaged corridors, following the mental map danger sense provided of the safest route. 5 seconds. He burst through a doorway into the main evacuation corridor, where SHIELD agents and freed prisoners were rushing toward the surface. Izuku released his Black Whip, setting the 11 people down as gently as his exhausted state allowed. 0. Behind them, the entire lower section of the facility collapsed with a roar of tearing metal and rushing water. The shockwave knocked everyone off their feet. Izuku lay on the ground, gasping, every muscle in his body screaming. He'd pushed too hard, used too much power. His arms were covered in the telltale bruising of one for all recall, but he heard voices. Confused, frightened, angry voices, but alive voices. The prisoners and guards he'd saved were alive. Hands grabbed him, shield agents. We've got you. Can you walk? I think so, Izuku managed. They helped him to his feet. His legs were shaky, but functional. Around him, the evacuation continued. Prisoners were being secured in restraints by shield agents, but gently, professionally. Guards were receiving medical attention. All personnel, evacuate immediately. Hill's voice came through the facility-wide comms. The raft is going down. Repeat, full evacuation in progress. Izuku let the agents guide him toward the surface, but his eyes kept scanning the crowds, counting. Had he gotten everyone? Were there any cells he'd missed? They emerged onto the landing platform to find multiple Quinjets evacuating people. Romanov was there, coordinating the operation with mechanical efficiency. When she saw Izuku, her expression shifted. You actually did it, she said. You saved them all. The guards, Izuku said urgently. There were 3 in the lower section, already evacuated. You got them out. Romanov gestured to where medical teams were treating the unconscious guards. Along with every single prisoner in the affected sections. The ones who escaped initially? Secured. Barton ran them down during the evacuation. She studied Izuku's bruised arms. You pushed yourself hard. Had to, Izuku said simply. A shield agent approached. Ma'am, we have a situation. Some of the prisoners you evacuated are refusing to get on the transports. They're saying. He hesitated. They're saying they'll only board if the kid hero vouches that S.H.I.E.L.D. won't kill them once they're secured. They don't trust us, Romanov said. But they trust you. Because you saved them. Izuku walked to where a group of about 15 prisoners stood, surrounded by nervous S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. These were people he'd pulled from cells, had dragged through floodwater, had shielded from falling debris. I'm getting on that Quinjet, Izuku said to them. You're all coming with me. S.H.I.E.L.D. will return you to custody. You did commit crimes, and there are consequences for that. But you won't be harmed. You have my word. And who are you? One of the prisoners asked. Why should we trust you? My name is Deku, Izuku said. I'm a hero. And I give you my word that if you cooperate, you'll be treated fairly and humanely. That's all I can promise. They looked at each other. Then, slowly, they began moving toward the Quinjet. Not because they were forced, but because they chose to trust him. As they boarded, one of the prisoners, the woman from the first cell he'd opened, paused beside Izuku. You risked your life for us, she said quietly. For criminals. People who've hurt others. Why? Because everyone deserves a chance, Izuku said. I don't know what you did, what choices brought you here. But I know that every person has value. That's what it means to be a hero. Seeing that value even when others don't. She didn't respond, just nodded and boarded the Quinjet. The flight back to the helicarrier was subdued. The adrenaline was fading, replaced by exhaustion. Izuku sat in the corner, his eyes half closed, feeling every bruise and strained muscle. You should eat something, Romanov said, offering him an energy bar. You burned a lot of calories back there. Thanks, Izuku said, accepting it. As he ate, he asked, did we save everyone? Every guard, every prisoner in the sections you reached. Total casualties, 0. Total escapees, 0. Every prisoner is accounted for and secured. Romanov sat beside him. In my entire career with S.H.I.E.L.D., I've never seen a prison break operation end with 0 casualties. We got lucky, Izuku said. No, Romanov corrected. We had you. Luck had nothing to do with it. Barton leaned over from his seat. The prisoners are already talking about you. Calling you different names. The Green Hero. The Kid Who Cared. But most of them are using the name the media gave you, Captain Hope. I'm not a captain, Izuku protested. Symbols don't get to choose their names, Romanov said. People choose for them. When they landed on the helicarrier, Izuku expected to be dismissed to his quarters. Instead, he was escorted to a conference room where Fury waited, along with Hill and, surprisingly, Tony Stark. Sit, Fury ordered. Izuku sat, wincing slightly as his bruised muscles protested. I've reviewed the operation reports, Fury said. Against protocol and direct advisement, You chose to manually evacuate 63 prisoners from a collapsing facility. You risked your life repeatedly for people who are incarcerated criminals. You exceeded your authority and made operational decisions without consultation. He paused. You also saved every single life in that facility, and prevented what could have been the worst enhanced prison break in history. I did what any hero would do, Izuku said. No, Fury corrected. You did what you thought was right, regardless of the cost. That's different. Stark pulled up his tablet, projecting images on the wall. While you were playing underwater rescue hero, something interesting was happening topside. Someone recorded the whole thing. The images showed footage from various angles, news helicopters that had arrived during the evacuation, SHIELD agents' body cameras, even prisoners' illicit recording devices. They showed Izuku breaking open cells, carrying unconscious guards, shielding people from debris, and finally emerging from the facility with black whips securing multiple people. This footage hit the internet 3 hours ago, Stark said. It's already been viewed 67 million times. And the commentary. He pulled up a live social media feed. The comments scrolled past. He saved the prisoners too. Not just the guards. Everyone. This is what a real hero looks like. Captain Hope is the real deal. No hesitation, just action. He risked everything for people who don't deserve it. That's true courage. We haven't had someone like this since Cap. Is it wrong that I'm crying? This kid restored my faith in heroes. Izuku felt his cheeks heat. I wasn't trying to be recorded. I was just doing the right thing, Hill finished. Which is exactly what makes this so powerful. You weren't performing for cameras. You were being genuine. Fury stood and walked to the window overlooking the helicarrier's deck. 6 months ago, the Avengers saved New York from an alien invasion. We won, but the public's response was mixed. Fear, gratitude, suspicion, all competing. We saved them, but they didn't trust us. He turned back to Izuku. In 6 hours, you've done what the Avengers couldn't do in 6 months. You've given people hope. Real hope. The kind that makes them believe in heroes again. I don't understand, Izuku said. People saw you risk your life for criminals, Romanoff explained. People who'd hurt others, who deserved punishment. And you saved them anyway because you saw their humanity. That resonated. It reminded people that heroism isn't about power or strength, it's about compassion. This is your moment, kid, Stark said. Right here, right now. Public opinion is shifting. People are asking questions. Who is he? Where did he come from? What does he stand for? And the answers to those questions could change everything. Or they could ruin everything, Hill added. If we mishandle this, if you're exposed as an interdimensional anomaly, it could create panic. Conspiracy theories. Xenophobia. Which is why we need to make a decision, Fury said. He fixed Izuku with his single eye. This world needs a symbol. Not a weapon, not a spy, not a billionaire in a metal suit. No offense, Stark, but a genuine symbol of hope. Someone people can look at and believe that there's still good in the world. You want me to be Captain America, Izuku said quietly. No, Fury corrected. I want you to be you. We had Steve Rogers. He was a product of his time, his experiences, his world. You're different. You come from a place where heroes are normal, where saving people is a profession. You have a perspective we've never had. I'm still trying to get home, Izuku protested. I know. And we're still working on that. But in the meantime, you're here. You have power. You have training. You have a moral code that doesn't bend. Fury leaned forward. This world needs a symbol. I think you're it. Silence fell. Izuku looked at each of them, Fury's calculating gaze, Hill's professional neutrality, Romanoff's guarded hope, Stark's analytical interest. He thought about his world. About All Might choosing him to inherit One for All. About the responsibility of being a symbol of peace. About Class 1A working together to become the next generation of heroes. He thought about this world. About a symbol lost 70 years ago. About the Avengers who saved people but didn't inspire them. About the void that existed where hope should be. I don't know if I can be what you need, Izuku said slowly. I'm not Steve Rogers. I'm not even All Might. I'm just a kid who wants to save people. That's exactly what we need, Romanov said. Not someone trying to be a symbol, but someone who is one naturally. If I do this, Izuku said, I need to do it my way. I won't compromise on my values. I won't kill unless there's absolutely no other choice. I won't manipulate people or use fear as a weapon. I'll be a hero, the kind of hero I was trained to be. Fair terms, Fury said. We'll provide support, training, resources. But you'll have autonomy in the field. You make the call on how to handle situations. And when you find a way to send me home? Izuku asked. Fury's expression was unreadable. If we find a way, the choice is yours. Stay or go. We won't force you to remain. But? Izuku could hear the unspoken word. But this world needs you, Fury said simply. For however long we have you, we need to make the most of it. And that means stepping into the light. Becoming the symbol these people are already calling you. Izuku stood, walked to the window, and looked out at the sky. Somewhere beyond those clouds was a world, his world, where his friends and family were probably mourning him, where All Might had entrusted him with the future of heroism, where he was supposed to become the next symbol of peace. But here, now, in this world, there was also a need. People who'd lost hope, who saw heroes as weapons rather than symbols. People who needed someone to believe in. He remembered the woman from the raft, asking why he'd risked his life for criminals. He remembered the guards he'd saved, the prisoners who'd trusted him enough to evacuate. He remembered All Might's words, a hero is someone who saves people with a smile. All right, Izuku said, turning back to face them. I'll do it. I'll be your symbol. But on one condition. Name it, Fury said. You help me find a way home. Not just in theory, not just if it's convenient. Actively work on it. Because I have responsibilities in my world too. People who need me there. We'll dedicate resources to it, Fury agreed. Stark, your lead on the Dimensional Research Project. Already on it, Stark said. Though I make no promises about timeline. Then we have an agreement, Fury said, extending his hand. Izuku shook it, feeling the weight of what he was accepting. This wasn't just agreeing to help S.H.I.E.L.D. This was accepting the burden of being a symbol, of carrying other people's hopes and dreams, just like All Might had done, just like Izuku had been trained to do. So what happens now? Izuku asked. Now, Fury said with something that might have been a smile, we introduce the world to Captain Hope. I still think that's a weird name, Izuku muttered. Get used to it, kid, Stark said. Because after today's footage, that name is trending worldwide. You're famous whether you like it or not. I didn't become a hero for fame, Izuku said. Which is exactly why people are going to love you, Romanov said. Come on. We need to get you to medical, then wardrobe. If you're going to be a symbol, you need to look the part. As they left the conference room, Hill fell into step beside Izuku. For what it's worth, she said quietly, I think you made the right choice. This world has been dark for a long time. Maybe you can help bring some light back. I'll try, Izuku said. That's all I can promise. Trying is all anyone can do, Hill replied. That night, after the medical examination, after the debriefing, after everything, Izuku sat in his quarters looking at the compiled footage from the raft operation. He watched himself save people, saw the fear in their eyes transform to hope. His phone, the S.H.I.E.L.D.-issued one, buzzed with a notification. Someone had created a compilation video of his actions set to inspirational music. The view count was in the tens of millions. The comments were overwhelming. This is what heroism looks like. He gives me hope for the future. Captain Hope is everything we needed. I want my kids to grow up in a world where heroes like this exist. Izuku closed the phone and looked at his reflection in the window. Green hair, freckled face, tired eyes. Just a kid from Japan who'd wanted to be a hero like All Might. Now he was being asked to be a hero like Captain America. Someone he'd never even met, in a world that wasn't his own. All Might, he whispered to the empty room, I hope I'm doing the right thing. Outside, stars wheeled through the night sky. And somewhere, across dimensional barriers Izuku didn't yet understand, maybe All Might was looking at those same stars, hoping his successor was safe. Izuku smiled, not All Might's confident grin, but his own determined smile. Tomorrow, he would step into the light as Captain Hope. Tonight, he was still just Izuku Midoriya, trying his best to be the hero the world needed. And sometimes, that was enough.